unfortunately the video had stopped and I didn't realize it. I checked it and turned it off. So anyways, that's life. I'm going to keep going and we're going to take a look now at slide 17. So we're going to move on now to expanding your vocabulary and talk a little bit about synonyms and antonyms and practice using them. So looking at slide number 18, what I want to do is I want to start with the word adjective. So let's think for a minute. So what's an adjective again? So an adjective, just to remind you, is 형용사 in Korean, and what we use these for is to describe, right? So we describe things like flavors, colors, shapes, numbers, sizes. We use them for everything, basically. So what I'd like you to do first is just to start by thinking about adjectives themselves. So what was the last thing you ate? And think about 5 words to describe it. So I'm going to talk about a banana because the last thing I ate was a banana. So the 5 words I would use to describe a banana are it's yellow, it's curved, it's healthy, it has a stem, and it comes from a tree, perhaps, something like that. Or it's yummy, it tastes good. So these are all descriptions. These are all used to describe a banana. So these are our adjectives. So what I'd like you to try and do is pause the video and think of 5 words. You don't need to write them down, just to think about words to describe what you last ate. Okay, so I'm going to move on now to slide number 19. So, excuse me. I want to start with the word synonym. So what is synonym in Korean? So to start with, synonym is 동의어 in Korean. So these are words that are, if we look at slide 20, synonyms are things that they're words that has the same or nearly the same meaning. So what I've done here is I've given you a website for a thesaurus. Now, perhaps you have not heard the word thesaurus before, but a thesaurus basically is a dictionary of synonyms and antonyms. So what we're going to do today is just take a look at them. So what I've done here is I've given you a couple of sets of pictures. So in the first picture, we've got a young picture of Justin Timberlake with his hair dyed blonde. So in my opinion, his hair looks similar to Lamyeon. It's not the same, but it's similar, okay? And this is what I'm trying to get across with a synonym. It's not necessarily identical in meaning, it's close, similar in meaning. And the same with these 2 pictures. We've got Einstein in the first picture and then a cute little baby in the second picture, and they're both sticking their tongues out. So although they're not identical, they're similar. They're very close in look. So these are what synonyms are. So I've given you an example here, and the example I chose is happy, okay? So this is a very simple word, very straightforward, but what we're looking for are words that have a similar meaning. So for example, we have happy, and I use the equal sign to show that it's the same or similar as glad. So happy, and the same as glad, and the same also could be said as joyful. So once again, we're going to do an exercise later with this. So if you want to, if you can think about it by yourself and figure it out, or if you're not sure, you can use this thesaurus online. Just punch it in, and or you can link to it here. And what you do is you type in the word that you want to find synonyms for, or antonyms, and then you look at the highlighted words. So the orange highlighted words are the best match. They're the closest in meaning. So those are the best ones to choose, basically. So we're going to move now to antonyms. So if you take a look at slide 21, what's antonym in Korean? It's 반대말. So I'm not sure if that's an exact translation. It means opposite, really. But an antonym Yes, it has an opposite meaning. So for example, ap, ape, and duye are opposite in meanings. So these are antonyms. And if we take a look at slide 22, we've got some, once again, what an antonym is. So if we just use English words, it's a word that's opposite to another word. So for example, fast, fast's antonym would be slow, and tall's antonym would be short. So what about long? Perhaps you could say long and short, perhaps. Anyways, you can have a look if you wish to, but we can just keep going also. So slide 23, what I'd like you to do is to try it yourself. So type in or click on the link for www.thesaurus, thesaurus.com. So what I'd like you to do first is to, and for these you can also just use your brain and figure it out by yourself. But what I'd like you to do is to figure out or search for the following words antonyms. Okay, so we're looking at the opposite, pandema. So hard, dangerous, empty, worried, and optimistic. See if you can think of them right now. And if you're not sure, then you can pause and look them up. Use this thesaurus.com. And then I would also like you to find the synonyms or to think of the synonyms for these words. And once again, if you can't think of it, maybe you're tired, just click on thesaurus.com and look through the highlighted words and find the one that you feel best matches your idea of the word. So if we move on to slide 24, hopefully you paused the video if you used the website link. But anyways, moving on to slide 24. On slide 24, did you perhaps find these antonyms? So there are many possible meanings. So you might be right even though you chose a different word, okay? So this is part of what our exercise is for today. Now, I use the symbol, the equal sign, with a line through it to show opposite. This is just my symbol. So for example, if you looked up the word hard or thought about the word hard, hard actually has two meanings that we could use. One is hard, as in, something is hard, the material. So then your opposite word perhaps was soft. But also it could be, oh, this is a very hard problem. It's very difficult. So if you chose that one, then perhaps you chose easy. My point is that there are many possible answers. The next one was dangerous, and I'm hoping that you got perhaps safe, but again, there are many possible answers you could have gotten. Empty, usually the opposite people go for is full. Worried, oh, I'm worried about a test or something, and the opposite would be calm. Optimistic, the opposite would generally be pessimistic. So, don't worry too much if you didn't get these exact words, but we're looking for the meanings that are opposite. Moving on to slide 25, these are the synonyms. So hopefully you chose synonyms like these. Once again, I use the equal symbol to show that it's the same as or equal to. So again, if you chose something that was hard, then perhaps a synonym would have been solid. Or if you said, oh, it's hard, maybe a synonym would have been difficult. It's difficult. If something is dangerous, it could be considered risky or unsafe. If something is empty, maybe an empty room, or you could have a roomy room, lots of room in it, an unoccupied room. You could be worried about something, means you could be troubled by something or upset by something. And someone who is optimistic generally is looked upon as being very hopeful. So I'm hoping you got some of these synonyms, and remember the point is that we're matching the ideas, the meanings. So anyways, we're going to move on now to slide 26. On slide 26 is the first part of your assignment. So what I'd like you to do is I want you to try. So I want you to write 5 adjectives, their synonyms, and their antonyms. Now, please do not use my words. Okay, don't use any of my words. For example, I chose happy, pretty, exciting, wild, and awesome. Those are my adjectives. What I wrote for my synonyms, happy, my synonym was glad, and my antonym, opposite, was sad. Pretty, I chose a synonym of nice looking, and my antonym as ugly. Something that is exciting to me is also very fun, and the opposite, of course, is that it's boring. Something that is wild can be very exciting, and the opposite, of course, would be tame. A tame animal, a wild animal. Something that is awesome can also be considered to be fantastic, and the opposite of awesome would be terrible. So these are just examples. Please don't copy them. If we take a look at slide 27, you can see my week 10 assignment number 1 as this is what I would like you to give me. Now, if you're not sure what to write about, or you're having a hard time just thinking about adjectives, why don't you do what I suggested before? Think about the last thing you ate. So for me it was a banana, maybe for you it was a gyur, an orange, or kimchi jjigae, or whatever. The last thing you ate. What's your favorite food? What's your favorite music? Your favorite person? And think about 5 adjectives to describe that food, music, or person. And then think about synonyms that match those words, the same meanings. And if you can't think of them, use the thesaurus.com website. Also use antonyms, opposite meanings. Okay? So please find your own. Don't copy. Just think about it. It's not difficult, but you do need to take the time. Anyways, I'm going to move on now to slide 28. So on slide 28, you may be wondering, we know about adjectives already. My point about this is that your vocabulary is very high. You have a very high level vocabulary. So you actually have lots of adjectives, but very few students are using them when I'm looking at assignments. So what I'm trying to do is to encourage you to be using synonyms and antonyms. Because when you do this, it's really, really good for speaking in English and for writing in English. It's really, really good. So essentially, if you take a look at the slide itself, you'll see that we have a boring sandwich. 2 pieces of bread and a piece of meat. So what we're trying to do here, if you click, is we're trying to add some skill. We're trying to add details, to add interest generally for our audience, whoever is listening to us or whoever is reading our writing. And if we do this, if you click again, we get this amazing sandwich. So possibly we add some shape, some texture, some color, so that it becomes a much more developed, much better piece of writing. Anyways, moving on to slide 29. This is your second part of your assignment for this week. So what you're going to do is a childhood interview. We're working on interviews because what you're supposed to be doing is speaking to your partner in English. So please try your best to use English for the whole interview. What I would like you to do first of all is we're going to take a look at the questions in slides 31 and 32. 31 and 32, yes. And what we're going to do is I'd like you to fill in the blanks for the questions, and then you're going to talk to your partner. So either you call your partner or you sit with them, briefly in class, I'm not sure. What you're going to do is, I would suggest work with the same partner you've been working with for the past couple of weeks. If you want a new partner, that's no problem, but remember to tell your old partner so your partner has time to find a new partner also. You can ask a family member, you can ask your mom or your dad or your grandma or grandpa or your brother or sister, but you should be using English, so remember to keep that in mind. And also, I can't see that being a problem, unless you ask someone younger. That might be a little bit difficult, like for elementary school younger. But anyways, so we fill in the questions, you talk to your partner, and then also remember that you're using English as much as possible. So of course, for this interview, we will be using past tense because you will have finished the interview by the time you're writing it, but also because it is about your partner's childhood, which is finished. So looking at slide 30, what I've done here again is I've color coded. So if you see any red lines, the red lines are the to be in past tense is what we're looking for. So we're looking for was or were. And when we're using to be, essentially what it reflects is something that we can't change, that was a part of us, part of our thinking, part of who we were. So if we take a look at slides 31 and 32, what I'd like you to do is decide what goes in the blanks. So pause the video now and go through these questions, and as you go through the questions, decide, should it be was, were, if it's red, or what past tense verb should we be using for the blue? Okay, I'm going to move on. So once again, if you have not paused the video yet, please do so now and look at slides 31 and 32 and fill in the blanks. I'm going to move on to slides 33 and 34. And slides 33 and 34, I would like you to check yourself and make sure that you did get the correct verbs that were missing. I'm hoping that you notice that because we're interviewing someone and using you as the subject pronoun, we're going to be asking about the reds, or were you. And also that you notice if we had two verbs, then it tended to be did is what we started with. So the did is the question word for past tense, and that if it was an open question, we simply put a who did, or where did, or what did. So please go through slides 33 and 34, check your answers, and then move on to slide 35. So slide 35 is the starting point for your assignment. So what I'd like you to do is, now that you've gone through those questions, I want you to choose the 7 most interesting questions in your opinion. What did you think was interesting? What do you want to learn about from your partner? Again, ask the same partner that you have had. If you want to change to a new partner, that's no problem, but remember to tell your old partner. Take notes as you're asking your 7 questions, and ask follow-up questions. So don't just simply stop with the question and then the answer. Ask a question about the answer. Anyways, moving on to slide 36. We are almost done, 2 slides left, so stick with me. I think we're right on time. The second part. Okay, so this is assignment number 2, and I'll recap in a second. Your week 10 assignment number 2 is to write an introduction paragraph about this interview. So you need to decide which 3 details that you got from your partner were the most interesting. Please write a paragraph about what you learned about your partner's childhood. And remember, please, 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 our focus for this week is not to repeat the same words. Use synonyms. Use words that have a similar meaning, or use words that have an opposite meaning. Our final slide this week is slide 37. And this is just to recap very quickly what your week 10 assignment is. So your week 10, the first part of the assignment is to write down 5 adjectives and their synonyms and their antonyms. Please write them in 3 columns so it's very easy for me to see. And you're not going to use my example words. You're going to make your own words. If you can't think of them, use thesaurus.com. Assignment number 2 is to write your 10-sentence paragraph about the childhood interview that you had with your partner. Remember, please, 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 to use all of what we have learned so far in this semester. And of course, our focus for this week is to use synonyms and antonyms whenever you can. So one example would be when you're talking about your partner, you can use their name. You can say my partner, you can say my classmate, or whomever it is you're interviewing, my younger brother, my mom, my dad, my friend, whatever. Or you could talk about your partner and be very complimentary and say this lovely girl, this wonderful boy, something like that. So take care, have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.